Somebody told you that you don't have what it takes. Maybe it was a teacher. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was a city that showed you that nothing but the ceiling of survival. And somewhere deep inside of you, a part of you believed it. This is where we are. See, I need to talk to that person today because God has something to say about who you are. And that has nothing to do with where you started. It has nothing to do with your grades. It has nothing to do with your neighborhood and nothing to do with what somebody else called you. This is a field-tested faith. And today, we're talking about Gideon, a man God called mighty while he was still yet hiding. So stay with me. See, let me tell you where I came from. Camden, New Jersey, one of the most dangerous cities in America at that time. I'm not saying that for the drama or for mere dramatics, but I'm saying that because geographical shapes expectation. When you grow up seeing what I grew up seeing, the ceiling gets low really fast. You survive the block. Don't end up locked up. You don't end up in a box. That was only the dream. That's the ceiling. And me, I was pulling C's and D's in math and in science. Forget it. I wasn't the kid teachers wrote about for their success stories. I was the kid the teachers wrote off. Yes, but I want you to understand something. What people write off, God sometimes writes it down on a list of people that he wants to use. There was a man in the Bible in the same position, and his name was Gideon. And when God found him, he wasn't standing on a hill with a sword, but he was hiding in a cave, in a winepress, that is, threshing wheat in secret, because he was afraid of the Midianites, afraid of the circumstances, afraid of himself even. Does that sound familiar? My parents brought home a machine. Most people looked at it and saw nothing. Black screen with green letters, no color, no internet, no YouTube, Commodore 64. I sat down in front of that same very thing and I typed 1,000 lines of code by hand for months, month after month I typed. And then one day, something moved on that screen. A dancing mouse. Yes. Now let me tell you what that moment taught me. It wasn't about computers. It was about this. What looks plain on the outside can be carrying power on the inside that people around you are not equipped to see. Yes, Gideon looked plain to everybody else. His clan, weakness in Manasseh, his position in his family, the least. By every human measurement, Gideon was nobody. But God doesn't measure the way people measure. God looked at that hiding, afraid, least of his family man and called him a mighty man of valor. He didn't call him what he was at the time, but he called him what he was about to become. See, God speaks to your future while you're still living in your presence. See, when I joined the Marine Corps, my family said, don't do it. A teacher looked me dead in my face and she told me, you'll never pass the Marine Corps. You'll never make it through boot camp even. I was failing the runs. I was failing the swim test all throughout boot camp. I almost drowned even in 15 feet of water. And let me tell you something, this very part. See, hear this very part very clearly. A drill instructor got in the vehicle and he drove it behind me on a run and told me if I stopped, he would just run me over. I didn't stop. I sure enough didn't. I passed that run, not because I wasn't scared, not because it didn't hurt, not because I felt ready, but I kept moving because the cost of stopping was greater than the cost of pushing through. And in that moment, I discovered something that changed my life. I can push myself well beyond what I think I can when I commit to the effort. That's not a motivational quote. That is revelation. The field test revealed what was already inside of me. Gideon had his field test too. God stripped his army from 32,000 down to 300 men. Yes, 300 men that is, against an army the Bible describes as as thick as locusts. No odds, no backup, no guarantee, but God. And God said, go. With these 300, I will deliver them into your hands. Why would God do that? Because God doesn't need your numbers. He needs your obedience. He needed Gideon to stop trusting the army and start trusting the assignment. Here's what I need you to walk away with today. Feeling leery doesn't disqualify you from the call. It confirms it. If God only called the confident, the church would be empty. If God only used the polished, the Bible would be a short book. God has a history of walking into the winepress and calling out the warriors. He found Gideon hiding, and he called him mighty. He found David tending sheep, and he called him a king. He found me in Camden, failing mad, pulling D's all throughout, almost drowning, and called me to lead, to preach, and to tell you that you're not, just because you're in the place that you are, you don't have to stay there. Yes, in this message, this right here, it doesn't just become a video series for me, but it becomes a brand. It becomes a testimony of what God can do in your life and mine. I came out of pressure, out of struggle, out of being written off, out of military testing, out of the hidden seasons of my life. And God gave me a message so real, so deep, that I had to put it into these many words. That's why I've created even the Battle-Born Believers clothing line. Because when God brings you through the fire, sometimes the message isn't just something you preach about. Sometimes it's something that people can wear as a reminder of who that wasn't God called you to be. Battle tested and faith forged. That's not just a slogan, but that's a testimony that I have and many of you have as well. See, Gideon recovered from his fear. He endured the doubt of his own people. He adapted 300 men, torches and trumpets, and he advanced. And Israel was delivered that same day. Camden didn't stop me. Almost drowning didn't stop me. People writing me off didn't stop me. And what's hiding in you right now does not get the final word. Recover, endure, adapt, and advance. That's all you need to do, because God is not looking for the obvious candidate. He's looking for the hidden one. He found Gideon in the winepress. He found me in Camden, and he can find you right where you are. I want you to do two things today. First, receive this word. Second, if this is your story too, if you know what it means to be tested, pressured, hidden, and still called by God, wear this word. Yes, the Battle Tested Believer collection is in the below description. Battle-Born Believers in the link. See, built for people who've been brought through the fire and still know they belong to God. You may feel leery, but God still calls you mighty. Recover, endure, adapt, and advance. So take care, my family. Take care, my friends. And God bless. And I'll see you again next week, Monday at 6 p.m.